Hello, and welcome to Bipolar Thoughts. My name is Steven, and I'll be your host. Welcome to the show, and if you are new here, we kind of talk about different things that are relatable to bipolar disorder, addiction, ADHD, just mental health disorders in general, and, well, just mental health, really. Before we get too started, I wanted to give out a big shout out to my girl Anastasia, who runs a podcast called Bipolar Diaries. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, you definitely should. She is hilarious and very relatable. Mostly she's just fucking hilarious. She cracks me up. But like I said, if you haven't had a chance to go check her out, definitely please do it because she is hilarious. And she's actually the inspiration for this show. I started listening to her, and I hadn't found anybody that was relatable or could tell a story that I understood and could relate to. So yeah, go check her out. And let's get started for today. Today we're going to talk about a couple of different things. First thing we're going to talk about is bipolar disorder and creativity. A little bit we're going to kind of get into some neurological because it's so information packed that there was no way that I could get through it. First of all, let's go through this historical association between bipolar disorder and creativity. Spitball this. So let's just jump right in and go right at it. So first we have bipolar disorder and creativity. The historical association between bipolar disorder and creativity has been a subject of interest and debate for many years. Throughout history, there have been numerous renowned artists, writers, musicians, and other creative individuals who were suspected or diagnosed with bipolar disorder. Some of the most notable ones are Vincent van Gogh. He obviously suffered from depression and pretty sure that he had bipolar disorder. They're not 100% sure, but they're pretty sure about it. Ernest Hemingway, kind of the same thing. He suffered from depression, alcoholism, and again, pretty sure that he had bipolar disorder. A lot of these are older people, so there's really no way to no one diagnosed them. So, but there's the likelihood of them having it is pretty high. Like Virginia Woolf. She had severe mood swings and ultimately died from suicide, which is something we've talked about before. Beethoven was actually, he had fluctuations in mood and pretty consistent with bipolar disorder, which may have actually influenced some of his work. A lot of his work may have come from his mood swings, which actually makes sense if you kind of listen to his music. Sylvia Plath, she pretty sure she had bipolar. She definitely had severe depression, and eventually, again, tragically, she died from suicide as well. Edgar Allan Poe is another one, which again makes sense because of how dark and macabre he was, with his tales, and eventually dying from tuberculosis. Just like everyone else in his life, that's got to have some kind of toll on your mental health, and I'm sure that triggered. He also suffered from alcoholism, so I'm sure that had to trigger his bipolar in some sort of way. It is essential to acknowledge that the historical association between bipolar disorder and creativity does not imply that bipolar is a necessary condition for artistic brilliance. Many creative individuals have not had bipolar disorder or any other mental health condition for that matter. Moreover, not everyone with bipolar disorder is exceptionally creative or artistic. The link between bipolar disorder and creativity is a complex and multifaceted topic. Some researchers have suggested that the heightened emotional states experienced during manic or hypomanic episodes may contribute to increased creativity and productivity in some individuals. Mania can bring heightened energy, reduced need for sleep, increased ideation, and enhanced cognitive connections, potentially leading to bursts of creative output. So basically, during a manic phase, you can experience these heightened notions of creativity. However, it is crucial to recognize that bipolar is a serious mental health condition that can cause significant distress and impairment to a person's life. The association with creativity should not romanticize or downplay the real challenges that individuals with bipolar face. Ultimately, there may be some historical evidence suggesting a connection between bipolar and creativity in certain individuals. It is essential to approach the topic with sensitivity and avoid making generalizations about either mental health or creative abilities. Proper diagnosis, treatment, and support are crucial for individuals with bipolar disorder to manage their condition effectively and lead fulfilling lives. So again, just saying it, all that's really saying is that you don't have to be creative if you have bipolar, and you don't have to have bipolar to be creative. That there's no real connection between the two. If you do have bipolar, and you can experience these again notions of passions and creativity, but that doesn't necessarily happen to everyone. And the thing is because you can also experience these feelings of creativity when you're depressed. I personally used to write a lot of music, and a lot of my music was influenced through the pain and the hurt that I had, in my life. And it was also, it wasn't just so much of a way, like I wasn't trying to get famous. It was more of a creative outlet for me. It was a way for me to get things off my chest, basically. So yeah, there's no real connection to the two, at least not that I've found, between the two. So let's jump into the neurological basis of some of this. Here's some of the key insights from recent studies on neurological basis of bipolar disorder. Brain structure and function. Neuroimaging studies, including MRIs, have provided valuable insights into the structural and functional differences in the brains of individuals with bipolar disorder. Researchers have identified abnormalities in brain regions involved in emotional regulation, such as the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala. Additionally, disruptions in the connectivity between brain regions and related to mood regulation and emotional processing have been observed. So basically, we can have a hard time regulating our emotions and our moods. So I can relate to this completely, because emotions are something that are very, very difficult for me to understand. Like, I've actually talked about this with my girlfriend. Like, if someone asks me to describe what love is, like what the feeling of love is, it's really hard for me to actually do that. I can tell you what love is, but I can't tell you what the feeling of love is. Like, I can tell you what the feeling of love is based off of other people's descriptions of it, but I can't tell you what love actually feels like to me. Not like the way that other people can. And that's just with one emotion, like, or one feeling like that, one sense, sensory that like that. I just, really the only, and this is probably not really so much to do with bipolar, but more of a, psychological aspect of something. But anger and fear and like those flight or flight responses, those are the ones that I can relate to the most and that I can actually understand. And they're the ones that I could explain to someone, as opposed to like some of those, like, I just don't understand, and it's hard for me to understand other, like, to have empathy. Empathy is another thing that's very hard for me to have, because like I was raised in a, pick yourself up by your bootstraps kind of environment, and so having empathy for people is really hard. And so again, that might not be a bipolar thing, that might be just more of a psychological, environmental thing. But knowing that it could be a part of my bipolar helps me realize that I may not be as big of an asshole as I think I am. So Neurotransmitters. The role of neurotransmitters, which are chemical messengers in the brain, has been extensively studied in bipolar disorder. Dopamine, serotonin, I can't pronounce that one, and glutamate are among the neurotransmitters implicated in the condition. Imbalances in these neurotransmitter systems have been associated with mood dysregulation, damn, that was a hard word, and development of bipolar symptoms, which can lead to genetics, can come from genetic studies exploring the genetic basis of bipolar disorder have identified several susceptibility genes and genetic variants linked to the condition. Some of these genes are involved in neuronal development. That was a fucking hard word. And neurotransmitter regulation and intracellular signaling pathways. It is now recognized that bipolar has a significant genetic component with both common and rare genetic variations contributing to its development. Realistically, they're saying that if you have one person somewhere like closely related to you, and it would be within the last two generations, like your parents or your grandparents, one of them, if they have bipolar disorder, it is more than likely that you're going to get it from one of them. Same thing that goes with things like ADHD and some of the other mental disorders, that they really are genetic and they come from a very close relationship. Some of them don't. Some of the mental disorders are just genetic mutations, and you may be the first one that that it pops up in your family. But more than likely, like, my mom won't admit it, but I guarantee you I got my ADHD from her. My bipolar, I probably got from my biological father. That's fucking crazy. I've never really thought about that before, but that's probably what happened. I mean, my mom is definitely she's got ADHD for sure. There's no doubting that one. She just doesn't want to admit it. And the bipolar, she might have bipolar, but the thing is she's never gonna go get fucking diagnosed. So having that definitive answer on that is never gonna happen for me, which is fucking fine. Which kind of brings me to the fact that it's 5:30 in the morning and my circadian rhythm is fucked. Like, I have to go through a sleep study here in the next couple of weeks because I'm pretty sure that I have insomnia. And circadian rhythms, so, okay, I'll just read you what it says. Emerging research suggests that disruptions in circadian rhythms, the body's internal clock regulating daily physiological and behavioral processes, may play a role in bipolar disorder. Abnormalities in circadian gene expression and disturbances in sleep-wake cycles have been observed in individuals with the condition. And I will tell you right now that is 100% sure. And it doesn't have to be a manic phase for you to go into this. I did recently have a manic phase, but then I had a slight depression phase after that. And I don't want to say slight in the fact that it wasn't like a hard time, a hard experience, just more in the fact that it didn't last long. It was actually a pretty bad depression, and I mean, I'm just going to be transparent with you guys. I became suicidal. I was able to work through it, and thank God, I have a great support system that's able to, kind of pick me up whenever I need it. And I definitely needed it then. But I don't know what else to say about that. So we're just going to skip down to the next one. Inflammation and immune system. So this is actually pretty interesting. Increasing evidence indicates that inflammation and immune system dysregulation may be associated with bipolar disorder. Chronic low-grade inflammation and altered immune responses have been linked to mood symptoms and may provide new avenues of therapeutic interventions. So I will tell you right now that is 100% true, at least for me. Inflammation in the immune system. So my immune system's not horrible, but I have terrible inflammation. I have arthritis. I'm 36 years old, and I have arthritis in most of my joints. I mean, to be fair, I'm a veteran, and when I was in the military, I broke both my hips, which is what I was discharged for, which eventually led to back problems, and I have a knee problem. So anytime it gets cold, or the weather's going to change, or it's going to rain, or the pressure in the air changes, just any kind of shit like that, I fucking hurt. I hurt generally on a daily basis just from wear and tear, but anytime the weather gets like funky, my body gets funky. So the immune system part though, that actually scares the shit out of me, because my mother has she has an autoimmune disorder, and I haven't really been tested for that, and my mother and I are both kind of really worried that I might have an autoimmune disorder, which is just not something else I need to add to the list of shit that's wrong with me. Which gets into now my epigenetics. Epigenetic modification refer to changes in gene expressions that do not involve alterations in the DNA sequence. Epigenetic mechanisms play a crucial role in the regulation of gene activity, and recent studies have shown that epigenetic changes may contribute to the development and course of bipolar disorder. I don't know what else to say about that one. Gut-brain axis. Gut-brain axis, which involves bidirectional communication between the gut microbiome and the brain, is an emerging area of research in mental health. Some studies have explored the potential role of gut microbia in in bipolar disorder and its influence on mood and behavior. I just want to say real fast, I apologize to anybody out there that's a scientist or a biologist or anybody that knows anything about anatomy or the body at all. I completely apologize if I have fucked up any of these words. I am not a scientist by any means, and I'm not anything to do with a physician or the field of medicine at all. So if I messed up a word, please forgive me, and if you're I am not a doctor, so please keep that in mind. It's important to recognize that bipolar is a complex and multifaceted condition, and its neurobiological basis involves interactions between genetic, environmental, and neurological factors. Ongoing research efforts aim to deepen our understanding of the neurological underpinnings of bipolar disorder, which may lead to improved diagnostic accuracy, targeted treatments, and better outcomes for individuals living with this condition. For the latest developments in the field, I would recommend, and I'm just going to say this, I would recommend looking up, doing your own research, and try to find reputable sources. I usually look for the Mayo Clinic or Johns Hopkins or the National Healthcare Organization. There's a few that you can go out there and look, but generally one that ends on .org is a more trustable, suitable source to look through than anything that says .com. I know there's the one at healthline.com, and there's a few other ones which are not terrible sources if you can't find anything else, but I wouldn't make those your first primary sources. So now we're going to continue on, but switch also a little bit into how the brain functions differently in individuals with bipolar disorder. So research has revealed several ways in which the brain functions differently in individuals with bipolar disorder compared to those without the condition. The differences involve various brain regions, neural circuits, and neurotransmitter systems. Here are some key findings on the brain functioning in individuals with bipolar disorder. Again, this is a very scripted episode, mostly because there's so much information packed into this. I couldn't break it down without just reading it. It's just so much information. And I wanted this to be an informational episode, like this series. I wanted to be very informational so that it would help people more than it would be just me fucking rambling about shit. So let's get into the different brain functions. So brain structure. Neuroimaging studies have identified structural differences in the brains of individuals with bipolar disorder. These differences are particularly evident in brain regions involved in emotional regulation and executive functionings. The prefrontal cortex, which plays a role in decision-making and impulse control, may show reduced volume and abnormal connectivity in individuals with bipolar disorder. True. Check and check. Limbic system. The limbic system, which is responsible for processing emotions is often affected in bipolar disorder. The amygdala, a part of the limbic system involved in emotional responses, has been found to be hyperactive during mood episodes in individuals with bipolar disorder, particularly during manic states. So that makes sense. If you have a hard time, that just makes sense with processing emotions. That just makes sense to me. The hippocampus. The hippocampus, a brain region critical for memory and learning, may also be affected in bipolar disorder. Some studies suggest that individuals with the condition may have smaller hippocampus volume, potentially contributing to memory and cognitive difficulties. That also makes sense to me because I have a terrible fucking memory, and I have ADHD, and the type of ADHD that I have is, I have a very bad short-term memory. Long-term, the thing is if you tell me something, I'm probably going to fucking forget it. If you tell me something several times, I probably won't forget it. I just won't think about it until it's time to think about it. But if you tell me something and you're like, blah, 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 and if I am not 100% staring straight at your fucking face and looking at your lips, I'm not going to gather any of the information. And then, even then, I'm probably still going to miss half of it because I'm trying to look at your emotion, your facial expressions, and read what your body is saying, and missing half the shit that you're actually saying. And by the time I catch up to the first thing that you've said, you're already on the third thing, and I'm sitting here like, what the fuck? Wait, hang on. And so eventually my brain just shuts down and stops listening altogether. And then I end up, having to either have you repeat it, which I don't like. I hate listening to people repeat things. I hate repeating things myself. So I just kind of fucking ignore it. And sometimes most of the time that's not on purpose. Sometimes it is, because I just don't give a shit. But most of the time I don't do it on purpose. So then there's the basal ganglia. The basal ganglia is a group of brain structures involved in movement reward and motivation, may exhibit abnormal functioning in bipolar disorder. Dysregulation in this system may contribute to some of the impulsive and reward-seeking behaviors observed during manic episodes. So I would say that that's actually probably just heightened during a manic episode, because impulse control and that reward system and motivation to get that reward, that's pretty prevalent, not just in a manic episode. It can also, I would say that you can also have that heightened during a low phase, where that impulse control can lead to some bad behaviors, that risk and reward, those risk and reward seeking behaviors, where you take a risk on something and you think that the reward is going to be worth it, and it just might not be. So, neurotransmitters. Bipolar disorder is associated with imbalances in various neurotransmitters, including dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine. That's a hard fucking word to say. And glutamate. These neurotransmitters play a crucial role in mood regulation, and their dysregulation may contribute to mood swings. I think we've kind of already covered that. Circadian rhythm, cognitive functioning. Individuals with bipolar disorder may experience cognitive impairments, especially during depressive episodes. And these impairments can affect memory, attention, processing speed, and executive functions, leading to difficulties in daily functioning. Connectivity and neural circuits. Neuroimaging studies have revealed altered connectivity patterns in individuals with bipolar disorder. These disruptions in neural circuits may contribute to the abnormal regulation of emotions and mood states. It is essential to emphasize that the brain differences observed in individuals with bipolar disorder are complex and interconnected, involving a combination of genetic, environmental, and neurological factors. Additionally, these differences may not be uniform across all individuals with the condition, as bipolar disorder is a heterogeneous disorder and with varied presentations. Understanding how the brain functions differently in individuals with bipolar is crucial for advancing the understanding of the condition and developing more targeted and effective treatments. As research continues to progress, it is hoped that these insights will lead to improved diagnostic accuracy, personalized interventions, and better management of bipolar disorder. Wow, that was a lot of information. I hope that you stuck with all that. I hope that it helped at least a little bit. And I want to apologize for how scripted it was. I read through this and like a couple of times, and it was just no way to get through it without reading it. And even then, even reading through it a couple of times, it was still hard to get through because a lot of the words are big or they're just hard to pronounce. And when I say big, I don't mean big and like that you can't understand them. I just mean that they're more hard to pronounce than anything else. I felt like this was pretty easy to kind of understand. I don't think that there was anything really inaccurate in any of that information. So I think we're just going to end it with this one. I think there is one more episode coming up after this. I'm not entirely sure. I got to look and double check my research and make sure that I didn't leave something out. But I think there's one more episode coming out after this one. I'm just going to end this one here and just say that, again, I hope this helped everybody. I hope this helped somebody. This isn't my best episode, again, partly because it's now almost 6 in the morning and I've been awake for several hours now. That goes back to that insomnia, and, sleep rate, the circadian rhythms. Mine is horrible. I'm down to about anywhere from like 3 to 5 hours of sleep a night now, which isn't, and not even good sleep because I wake up several times in between that. And then I struggle all day long trying to stay awake. And which sucks because I can't take some of the medicine like my Latuda because Latuda make you fucking sleepy. And if you take too much of it, it makes you really sleepy. I don't mean like take too much of it on purpose. I mean like my dosage is just high enough to where when I take both of them at the same time, like I have to take 2 of them a day. And I was told, my doctor was like, take both of them in the morning and then you should be good for the rest of the day. And so that's what I was trying to do, except that it was getting dangerous. Like I couldn't even drive anywhere, like especially a long distance, because I was probably going to fall asleep at the wheel. And even now that I've cut back to just 1 in the morning and then trying to take 1 at night, which I do that more now to try and help me sleep at night and not be so sleepy during the day. But even doing that, I'm still fighting sleep all day, and that's 100% because of my circadian rhythm and the fact that I just don't sleep. I will say though that because I don't sleep, I do get a lot of shit done. Mostly, most of my work gets done about this time, early in the morning. I do get things done throughout the day, but mostly not mental tasks. It's hard for me to do homework in the afternoon. It's hard for me to read anything in the afternoon just because I'm so fucking tired. And if I read a book, I'm gonna pass out. And it's hard for me to remember the shit that I read, which sucks for my homework. So yeah, let me just go ahead and get off of here and say that, I hope this helps somebody, and I need you to just remember that you don't have to be, if you're struggling, you don't have to sit in the dark alone. You don't have to be by yourself. There's help. And if you don't have anyone to talk to or you don't have anyone to listen, please email me, leave me a comment, do whatever you have to do. Get a hold of me. I'll listen. I may not be able to respond immediately, but I will get back to you because this is something that I take very seriously, and the entire point of all of this is just to help somebody else. I know the struggles that I go through, and a little in a selfish way, it does help me get shit off my chest, and it does help me in that way. But for the most part, I'm really doing this so that someone else gets something out of it. So just remember, you don't have to sit in the dark alone.